Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, everyone. How is everyone doing? Good morning, Patrick. And first, hey, Sterling. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, people in the background. How is everyone doing? Hope everyone had a good weekend and is ready to start another week. Full week of Q3 earnings, first full week. So we're going to be looking to that. There's not much else going on besides a lot of Fed speak. We already had the Empire State Manufacturing Index come out today, coming in a little better than consensus, but back into negative territory. We got Harker coming up. And that's about it. Quiet Monday. Good morning, Royal Palms. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow, it's a big week of Fed speak. News coming. Sterling's working, though. The dealership should modify its hours around your schedule, Sterling. Come on. Craig, Christoph, happy Monday. SPY gap up. Why? Well, we'll get to all this stuff because the S&P's up. The futures are up. So naturally, the spiders are going to gap up. But Fed, we got tomorrow again. It's a big week of Fed speak. Other than that, we got retail sales tomorrow. We got retail inventories. So that's some minor news there. Crude numbers on Wednesday. Housing starts building permits. More Fed speak. Oh, it's going into the quiet period when they all got to say something. Really? I mean, I've been doing this since 92. Okay. And this Fed speak's getting ridiculous. It's like years ago, you didn't have to deal with all this crap. Like they didn't all have to chime in on everything. Thursday, unemployment claims as always. Philly Fed numbers. CB leading index consumer board. More. We got Powell speaking. Powell on Thursday, and then look at this. Goolsby, Barr, Bostic, Harker, Logan. Starting off Friday, we got Harker, Mester, and then we got rig counts. So Thursday's probably the biggest day of the week this year in terms of financial releases and Fed speak. So far this morning, besides NVIDIA and Apple, some pretty disappointing numbers out of China for the iPhone 15. Tesla down a bit, but everything else besides ELV is looking pretty decent. The groups, let me just refresh this. There we go. Everything's now positive. Everything's positive to start off the Monday. Fed watch, we're still, the highest thing is only a possible 31% chance in January of a hike. Remember, we got, a couple weeks now. Just over a couple weeks until the November meeting. And then, what is it? The 1st of November. And if they don't hike then, unless some numbers come out really strong for stuff, it's December's the last real option. I don't see them hiking into next year. But we're still in fear mode. So he still could get some more bouncy bounce. In terms of earnings, Charles Schwab was the only thing this morning. After the close, not much. But tomorrow we got Bank of America, Lockheed Martin, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, BNY Mellon. After the close, United, Interactive Brokers, JB Hunt, ASML, P&G, Morgan Stanley all Wednesday morning, Abbott, U.S. Bank Corp, Tesla. A lot of people waiting on Tesla after the close on Wednesday, and Netflix. So Wednesday afternoon is going to be important. Alcoa, Discover. Thursday, AT&T, American Airlines, TSM, so Taiwan Semiconductor. What else? That's about it then. But the TSMC could be important, along with American Airlines. CSX after the close. And Friday, we got American Express is the pretty big one. And then the following week really gets going in the heart of earnings. But this week is not too bad, especially with Netflix and Tesla after the close on Wednesday, rolling into all that Fed speak with Powell speaking on Thursday and unemployment numbers, and then followed up Thursday morning with Taiwan Semiconductor. So I'm going to really be paying attention Wednesday evening, Thursday morning. All right. Good morning, Anissa. So So far, the spiders, we had a sell day on Friday, tried to rally, and then it just dumped. It just dumped and then tried to come back a bit. So far, we're this little flagging pattern. So far, if you're looking for the bullish thing, you really got to start getting above about 43.82. Above 43.82, I'd be watching for 4,400. That's the next key level. Above there, let me just pull off these old levels. Above there, then it would roughly be about 44.20 and then 44.30. Those are the ones I'm using to the upside. To the downside, there's a fair amount of support, about 43.50 to 43.50, 43.55 to 43.58 right in here. And if we were to break that, going into the open, if we pull back, I'm watching 43.67. And then we're coming down to, if we did break that 43.55, the next major support area is 43.45. You can see that's prior resistance, and we had a little minor buying pressure there. If we were to break this week 43.40, Friday's lows, Friday the 13th lows, then my key harmonic cluster, if it does roll over, 43.33 to 43.29 would be key. We break there. 43.18 intermediate. 43.08 is major on a closing level. We close below 43.08. We'll watch for the retest of the beginning of October lows. Other than that, that's where we said in the beginning of October lows would be a retest of the 200 area. You see overall, if on any rally you break out of this flagging pattern, there's going to be some pretty key resistance still at the 50. It's not been able to close above the 50 EMA. So you see here it came down in September. Support finally broke third week of September and has not been able to close back above it yet. So that's where I'm watching key closing levels. Hey, Christoph, we could take a look at the FDX weekly double top in a bit. So, had a little fake out here on with the 1 hour triggering a little that sloppy mini double on Friday and then just selling down. But now it's a 4 hour potential double on the NASDAQ. So I need a 4 hour close about 15,187.50. for it to officially trigger. Those key levels 15,240, 15,265, 15,292. Now from the sell-off, the key area, I'm really watching this 50% harmonic 15,266, 15,267. That's a 50% retracement from the sell-off. And then we get above the final target in the double. I'd be looking at 15,316.25 on a closing basis for the short term, any short term bullish move. All right, if you're looking for any kind of flagging pattern, this is what it's going to look like here, and which is roughly going to correspond to that first target if this does trigger. So keep a very close eye on that first target. If it rolls over to buying pressure, let's just take a look. Right here, we're against very key resistance going in the open. The buying pressure is about 15,100. And then below that, you got about 15,083 and then a potential retest of Friday's lows. If it breaks Friday's lows, the cluster area in the NASDAQ is 15,000, about 25 to 15,011. You break below that, 14,960. And the key area on a closing basis would be 14,917. And that's what it looks like on the higher time frame. The moving averages I'm ignoring right now, they're flat. So, break above here, then I'd be watching for a potential mini double top pattern. But there's a fair amount of resistance. Prior support that broke, and we retested it once. So I'd be watching for that retest if this double plays out, and then you get the close about 15,316, watching for a potential mini double top forming. The Dow, we've had some rotation in the Dow, remember, with some of the financials triggering. So the Dow, though, has to really start getting above about 34,000 34,100. And then 34,189 is the 50% retracement from the sell-off. 34,266 is the 50 EMA, which we should get some retest there. It's not as important as the S&P for this one, but I will be watching it. And the closing basis to keep rallying is 34,481 for this week. We start breaking below 33,700. Then Thursday's low, which will not be good. We get below Thursday's low, 33.6. We'll be watching for a retest of the lows there. The Russell, you still have the potential, very stressed potential, because I'll be shocked if this triggers. It's against the rotation zone before the trigger point. But in the shorter term before that, I'm paying attention to Friday's high, 1755. And then let's flip these around real quick. Let's flip around the harmonics and watch for 1763, and then on a closing basis, 1773. But it would be against the rotation zone, so I would not ignore the 75% harmonic target if we did rally. If we dump, if we have the good old minor dump, I got the major levels on there. Let me go to there for the downside, because remember, I am not terribly bullish on the Russell. If we start breaking below 1720, 1710 and a half, 1700, and then we're down to 1683 and 1646. And 1646 would be a retest of the major low area from last June and October. This is one of the first ones I'm watching for a rollover play. The VIX, come on VIX, still elevated. If we start dropping below 18, then I'll start looking more for a slightly sustained rally going into the midweek. That's what's going to be key. The DAX does have a little mini double against the 200. This qualifies. Why? Because the first and second targets are into the move that started, and the third target comes to the high. But the first and second targets are within the candle bodies. It would need a close above the high of 15,684. Not expecting it to trigger, but again, we have to be prepared for anything. In the short term, key resistance is about 15,340. Support's coming in at 15,180. So those are the key breakdown or breakout levels. The notes, I'm still watching. In order for the notes for a sell-off, I need a close below 107. 107, then I'll be watching for a retest of the beginning of October low area. Other than that, it's got to start getting a close above about 108, and then I'll watch for a potential rally to the 50 EMA. On the yield, I need the close above 4.74 and a half to do anything in the bullish mode. If we get a close below about 4.58, I'll be watching then for the breakdown play, potentially to the 50 EMA in the notes. The looks like we're potentially back in some steepening after the pullback to the rotation zone for the 10-2 yield curve. So we're going to see if that bear steepening comes through some more. The dollar index technically closed barely above the 62.5, so I'm going to need some follow through to the upside. Unless we really start breaking back below 105.60, we'll watch for a rotation up at some point in the dollar index. Crude, which triggered the double on Friday. So what's the invalidation point for there? The invalidation point is down at about 83.65 on a closing basis. Other than that, watching for pullbacks and then rotations back up. So that has triggered officially. We'll have to see if we get the follow through there. Was a fair amount of support down here. How else we doing? I'm baffled by this move up in the Russell. Well, it's coming off of some pretty decent oversold in the key support, Eric. So I wouldn't be baffled. I would be more so surprised if the double would trigger in the Russell. But remember, markets don't go in a straight line. Hey, Lauren, how you doing? Looking at what FFIE this AM. Well, let's see this. Natty Gas was holding key support earlier. Looks like it's breaking down below this, but we're still. I'll get out of more watching for the bounce if it gets back below $3. Otherwise, somewhere in here, I'm watching for a bounce play, especially when cycles get to the bottom. Gold, starting to watch for the pullback play. Friday was a rocket ship, up 3%. But now, remember, I'm watching for a longer term bottom coming in. So this key pullback is going to be major. At this point, if we do set up a 1 bar pause against this trend line and we break out of that, I'd be looking to then potentially go with the break move because we couldn't even get a pullback. But other than that, I'm watching for some key pullbacks, and that's not all the way to the gap fill at this point. The first key support area watching is this 1915. What else do we have? Let's get to not much going on in the yen real quick. The yen just basing here. If we do break above 149.80, still 150.50 is the next target. Euro, by the way, does have a little valid mini double bottom. So if that triggers, then I'll be start watching for another pullback in the dollar. Other than that, that's the only major potential bullish play there. Pound does not have a double, did not pull back far enough. Spiders. So remember, we've triggered that double still in the spiders. Hit the first target, pulling back. 436.63, trading pre-market 434.07. So really, the major target is, again, this 436.63 area. Then above there, still 439 and 441. It's key support. I'm watching Friday's low, right around 430. We break below 430. That's when I will use these little harmonics. Then I'm watching 428.75, and on a closing basis, 426.61. But a little upside potential still there in the Qs. The Qs, if you want the minor levels, I'm watching 368.80, and then on a closing basis, 370.10 technically. If we get above 370.10 on a closing basis, then I'm watching for a retest of this significant declining trend line. If flipping these around for support, if we were to break below Friday's lows, really first would be about 365, and then Friday's lows of 363.86. Major cluster 362.50, and then a closing basis 359.75 for watching for a continued drop. What else? We got Tesla. Remember, earnings on Wednesday. 245 is key. Really, unless this... I hate doing stuff with Tesla before earnings because you got people who buy Tesla no matter what. So right now, but 245's key. Was never able to close above the 62.5. So still 267 and 245. NVIDIA pullback on Friday. Watching for this, it did actually close above the 62.5 on Wednesday and Thursday with no follow through yet. Keeping an eye on there. Another thing, keep an eye on Apple. If Apple starts breaking below about 177, we could be watching for a little mega cap rollover. What else do we have? FDX on the weekly. And Christoph is completely correct with the FDX triggered double top. And that looks like a very precise double top. So we could see some more down, and that could be in line with slowing economy. FedEx, and look at that target. Look at the target on that double. The first target is right at the 50 EMA on the weekly basis, 233.60, 227.38, 221.15 for the 200 on the weekly. And even with that pullback, it doesn't take it back to the 50% from the run up from last October's lows. But keep an eye on that. So on a shorter thing, if you get any bounces, especially a bounce back between 246.05 and 249, I would be looking for a rollover play. Well, thank you for telling me that. What else? What is FFIDE? That, are you serious, Lauren? Are you serious? This is what you're looking at? All right. You can't be serious. Faraday Future Intelligent Electric? You better be joking on that. From 616. From 616. What is oh boy, that is just an ugly, ugly chart. Wow. All right, I'm not trading that with Coco's money if Coco has any left. So that's where we sit. Anything? I'm not seeing anything else. Let's see. Let's just jumping into the open at the S&P. Not in it. I guess if there's going to be some kind of squeeze or breakout play, but I wouldn't touch it. 43. It was not. That's not something I like to trade right there. 43. This 43.82 is key into the open, and if you're looking for a pullback into the open, 43.75. You start breaking 43.75, I'd be watching for a potential choppier day. All right, so that's where we sit. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this wonderful Monday morning. Remember, lots of Fed speak even going on today. Let's touch back in. We got Harker. No, not a lot today, but we got Harker speaking at 9:30, so another hour. Sorry, not a lot of Fed speak today. Not a lot of numbers today. So that's where Netflix. You want Netflix going into the earnings on Wednesday. Netflix going into earnings. Netflix. On a daily, not good right now because of the close below the 200. Oops, hold on. There we go. Let me just clean this up a second. Very key support around this 324 area. You have some prior support back in April. You got to 50% retracement. You can see after it broke down, it has not been able to get above the daily rotation zone. So any pop in the rotation zone, especially on a pop to about 374, 375, I'd be watching for a potential other rollover play unless they blow out earnings. This would be any pop going into earnings. That would be very key. And now it even broke below this. See here? You had the key resistance in January and February, tested in May, broke out at the end of May, held in September and beginning of October, and now is broken below it. So not only do you have the declining rotation zone, the 20, and the daily rotation zone overhead resistance, I mean, any pop into here would be, I'd be watching again for the rollover play unless the earnings blowout was major. And even if it did pop even more, this 400 area would be very major resistance. You see on the weekly how it's broken. It even closed last week below the key support. So with the first cross or rotation zone, I'd be watching to sell any rallies potentially. Oh, that means, oh, geez. They're going to go after short sellers? All right. First off, this, hold on. What happened? FFIE. This was not caused by short sellers. There were shorts in this, I guarantee it, but this, You know, and whenever somebody says I'm going after the short sellers, they're hiding something. But this is garbage. This is garbage. Yeah, it could pop on that little thing, but look. This company, does it even make any money? No. That's why it's sold off. It's garbage. It was probably a pump and dumper. Yeah, citing illegal short set. You know what? All these companies, and they cite illegal short selling. They're just trying to cover their own ass for stuff that it means the short sellers are interested in it because it's. But here's a stock I would not be if I were short earlier. This is where you don't want to be short anymore. Why? You're trying to squeeze out a little more, like at most a buck, by having a huge spike risk for idiots who will see that headline trying to pile into it. No, I wouldn't even be short this anymore. If somebody's still short this, they deserve to get their butt handed to them on any pop. But when you see a company cite illegal short selling and everything, especially with a chart that looks like this, they are full of crap and they have a crappy, crappy business. And we'll leave it at that with the S&P. S&P, all right. Little pullback in the open, 43.75 or 43.82. First key things I'm watching. And I'll talk to everyone tomorrow. Have a wonderful trading day. Bye for now.